there comes a profound moment in life, often whispered, when the familiar dance between parents and children subtly shifts. For decades, you poured your heart into raising them, guiding their first steps, sacrificing countless dreams for their futures. But then, one quiet day, a realization surfaces. Something fundamental has changed. Perhaps they brush aside your gentle advice, or dismiss your hard-won opinions with a wave of a hand. Maybe they speak to you in a tone that feels dismissive, or, in the deepest cut, make you feel like a quiet burden. And it hurts. If your own grown children have begun to treat you with less than the deep respect you deserve, you might find a wave of frustration, even anger, rising within you. Your heart might ache to remind them of every late night, every sacrifice, every moment you placed them first. But here's a tender truth. Anger, in this delicate dance, rarely mends. In fact, it often widens the very chasm you yearn to bridge. Instead, there's a far more graceful, profoundly effective way to rekindle their respect. One that doesn't involve shouting, arguing, or the bitter taste of resentment. Today, I want to share with you 6 gentle, yet incredibly powerful shifts you can embrace when your children seem to have forgotten the reverence due. These aren't grand gestures, but simple, quiet changes in how you respond, how you carry yourself, that can utterly transform their perception of you. Some of these may surprise you, but if you stay with me until the very end, you'll discover how to softly reclaim your cherished place as a respected, valued, and truly revered figure in their lives. Reclaiming your value. End the pursuit of validation. One of the most tender, yet often unseen mistakes parents make, particularly as the years gracefully accumulate, is striving too diligently to earn their children's approval. Perhaps you've caught yourself in this quiet dance, bending over backward, reorganizing your days around their whims, agreeing when your heart truly wished to say no, always placing their needs at the forefront. You do it with such love, hoping that if you just offer enough, give enough, sacrifice enough, they will finally see and appreciate your boundless devotion. But here's the quiet, often painful truth. The more you chase their validation, the less true respect they often offer in return. Respect, you see, isn't bought with self-sacrifice. It's cultivated through the gentle, unwavering soil of self-respect. If your every action signals that your feelings are secondary, that your time is infinitely flexible, or that your opinions are negotiable in the face of their desires, what you are subtly teaching them is that your personal worth comes second. And once that belief takes root in their minds, it becomes remarkably easy for them to take your presence, your kindness, your very essence, for granted. I once knew a woman named Beatrice, a vibrant, independent spirit in her younger years, full of laughter and strong opinions. But as she aged, a quiet shift occurred. She began to defer to her grown children on every decision, subtly molding her schedule to theirs, keeping her wise counsel to herself, and even overlooking the casual dismissiveness in their tone. "I just want to keep the peace, keep the family together," she'd murmur, her voice soft with longing. But what gently transpired? Her children began to undervalue her. They perceived her as someone who would always adjust, always acquiesce, always remain silently agreeable. She believed she was fostering harmony, but what she was unknowingly doing was losing her own precious voice. If your children seem to have forgotten the language of respect, the first step isn't to demand it with a raised voice. It's to cease acting as if you are desperate for it. Begin to set gentle boundaries. Learn to utter a calm no when your spirit truly needs to. Speak your mind with quiet conviction, even if your words might not be precisely what they wish to hear. Because the very moment you begin to truly respect your own precious self, they will start to see you through a different lens. And in time, that profound respect will softly bloom back towards you. The power of poise. Respond with dignity, not argument. When your adult children gently brush aside your wisdom, speak over your words, or treat you with a casual air of disrespect, your first instinct might be a surge of protest, to argue, to remind them of every sacrifice, to demand that they listen. But let me share a profound truth that can spare you years of quiet frustration. Arguing never truly works. Think about it. In the tapestry of your life, when was the last time you genuinely persuaded someone to respect you by engaging in a battle of wills? Respect isn't won through a volley of words. It's earned through your quiet presence, through the unwavering grace with which you carry yourself, through the calm certainty in your response when others might attempt to test your patience. If you meet their subtle disrespect with anger, all you are subtly confirming is their unspoken belief that they somehow hold power over your emotions. I knew a man named Arthur, a retired history professor who had commanded respect in every classroom for decades. Yet, at home, his grown children had begun to treat him like a quiet afterthought. They ignored his sage advice, dismissed his gentle concerns, and sometimes even allowed a chuckle to escape when he attempted to offer a correction. At first, he would argue, trying desperately to prove he still deserved their reverence. But the more he fought, the more the distance grew. Then, one quiet day, Arthur made a transformative shift. Instead of engaging in a verbal skirmish, he began to truly listen deeply without interruption. He stopped chasing respect with a flurry of words and instead carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who already possessed it. He spoke calmly, his words imbued with wisdom, without any desperate need to win, and slowly, imperceptibly at first, his children began to notice. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their validation, who didn't feel the need to constantly prove his worth. He simply was, a quiet figure of strength. If your children seem to disrespect you, don't engage in a verbal battle. Instead, show them what respect looks like through the quiet elegance of your own self-treatment. Hold your dignity close. Speak with a calm confidence that needs no external validation. And most importantly, never ever lower yourself to their level of perceived disrespect. Because when you stand your ground with unwavering grace, they will instinctively feel it. And in time, they will gently begin to follow your lead. Cultivating inner peace. Detach from emotional dependency. One of the most challenging yet liberating lessons to embrace as your life's tapestry continues to unfold is this: you cannot and should not place the entire weight of your emotional fulfillment onto the shoulders of your adult children. You love them with an immeasurable depth, and naturally, you yearn for that love and respect to flow freely back to you. But the very moment they sense that you need them to feel complete, to feel valued, the delicate balance of power within that precious relationship subtly shifts. Here's the gentle truth. People, even your own beloved children, instinctively respect those who stand firm in their own emotional independence. When you constantly lean on them for validation, for every whisper of affection, for all your attention, it quietly places a heavy, unspoken pressure upon them. And instead of feeling a spontaneous surge of gratitude, they might begin to feel a subtle burden. They might unconsciously begin to pull away, to treat you with a quiet impatience, or even a flicker of irritation. And tragically, the more you pursue their love, the less freely, the less organically it seems to flow. I once knew a woman named Sarah, a kind-hearted mother whose life had been a beautiful testament to giving everything to her children. As they grew into busy adults, fully engaged in their own lives, Sarah found herself waiting by the phone, her heart fluttering with every hopeful ring. When the calls didn't come, she would often reach out first, perhaps a little too often. She'd gently remind them how much she missed their laughter, how she longed for their visits. But instead of drawing them closer, this gentle yearning, paradoxically, seemed to create a subtle distance. They began to perceive her calls as a quiet obligation, rather than a cherished connection they eagerly anticipated. Then, one quiet day, Sarah made a conscious, brave choice. She stopped waiting. She stopped always making the first call. Instead, with newfound resolve, she began to gently focus on herself. She dusted off old passions, embraced new hobbies, sought out the company of cherished friends, and diligently nurtured her own happiness. And something truly surprising began to unfold. Her children started calling more often, their voices laced with genuine curiosity about her life. They began to respect her time, seeing her not as someone waiting to be filled, but as a person with a vibrant, self-sufficient life of her own. The lesson here is beautifully simple. The less you depend on your children to make you feel needed, the more they will truly begin to value your presence. When you gently show them that you can stand strong and whole on your own, they will begin to look at you with deep admiration, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely respect the rich, fulfilling life you've so gracefully built for yourself. Defining your space. Establish and uphold clear boundaries. One of the most overlooked reasons children begin to lose respect for their parents is rooted in a quiet truth. Often, the parents unknowingly allow it. If you continually permit your children to speak to you with a casual air of disrespect, to dismiss your opinions with a wave of a hand, or to treat your time and feelings as if they hold no intrinsic value, they will quite simply continue to do so. This isn't because they are inherently bad people. It's because human nature, especially within the comforting familiarity of family, often leads us to treat others precisely the way we are allowed to. Setting boundaries doesn't mean severing ties with your beloved children or intentionally creating conflict. Instead, it means calmly and firmly deciding, with deep self-awareness, what kinds of behavior you will and will not gracefully accept. And crucially, it means lovingly enforcing those boundaries when they are subtly or overtly crossed. I remember a man named David, a retired architect who had spent his career leading complex projects with unwavering discipline and quiet confidence. Yet, when it came to his adult children, he found himself struggling. They would interrupt him mid-sentence, dismiss his well-considered concerns, and even criticize his life choices with a casual ease. At first, he tolerated it, telling himself that preserving family peace wasn't worth the discomfort of confrontation. But over time, a quiet realization settled in. Every instance he remained silent, every time he let a dismissive remark pass, he was subtly teaching them that their behavior was acceptable. So one day, David gently but firmly altered his approach. When his son interrupted him, he calmly stated, "I will continue speaking when you're ready to listen fully." When his daughter brushed aside his opinion, he simply replied, with quiet dignity, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect my perspective." And when they continued to gently test his newly defined limits, he made it unequivocally clear. If they couldn't engage with him with basic mutual respect, he would politely limit their time together. And do you know what transpired? They began to listen. At first, there was a quiet resistance, a subtle pushback. But over time, they understood that their father was not going to yield. They saw that he valued himself enough to quietly demand respect, and because of that profound self-worth, they began to offer it in return. If your children seem to treat you without the respect you deserve, it's time to gently ask yourself, am I perhaps unknowingly allowing this? Because if you do not set these essential boundaries, they certainly won't set them for you. And if you do not stand up for your own inherent worth, no one else truly can. The value of reciprocity. Rethink unappreciated giving. One of the swiftest, most subtle ways to inadvertently diminish the respect you receive is to continually give to those who do not genuinely appreciate it. And as parents, driven by boundless love, we often fall into this pattern more frequently than we realize. We generously offer our precious time, our vital energy, our unwavering support, even when our efforts go unacknowledged, even when they are simply taken for granted, even when our kindness is met with a quiet sense of entitlement. But here's the quiet, yet powerful truth. When you continuously give to someone who fails to appreciate your gifts, you don't build love in the way you hope. You certainly don't build respect. Instead, you subtly cultivate expectation. They cease to see your kindness as a valuable gift and begin to perceive it as something they are inherently entitled to. And the very moment you, for any reason, pause or stop, they don't feel grateful for what they've received. They simply feel inconvenienced by its absence. I once knew a man named George, a father whose generosity with his children knew no bounds. He helped them financially whenever a need arose, dropped everything to lend a hand, and even rearranged his own life to accommodate their demands. But instead of gratitude, he was met with a quiet chorus of complaints. A simple thank you was rare. Instead, there was an expectation for more. And the most heartbreaking part was that when he, in turn, found himself in quiet need, they were often too busy to reciprocate. Then, one day, George made a profound shift. He stopped overextending himself. He stopped offering help before it was even gently requested. And most importantly, he began to say a calm, firm no when his own needs dictated it. At first, his children were bewildered, even frustrated. They couldn't comprehend why he wasn't bending over backward for them anymore. But over time, something remarkable began to shift. They began to truly value his time. They started to genuinely appreciate his efforts. Because suddenly, they realized that his generosity was not an unlimited, guaranteed wellspring. It was a precious gift, not a right. If you feel that your children don't truly respect your time, your effort, or your kindness, take a gentle step back. Ask yourself, with quiet honesty, am I perhaps giving more than I should? And if so, what might happen if I were to pause, to stop this relentless flow? Because when you subtly teach people that your boundless generosity is conditional on respect, they will inevitably begin to treat it with the reverence it truly deserves. Forging your own path. Cultivate a vibrant, independent life. One of the most powerful, often understated ways to rekindle your children's deep respect is to gently show them that your profound happiness doesn't entirely revolve around them. As parents, it is beautifully natural to dedicate ourselves to our children, to make them the bright center of our universe. But as we age, that delicate dynamic subtly shifts. And if you have lovingly spent your entire life prioritizing their every need and desire, they might, quite unintentionally, begin to perceive you as someone who has nothing else drawing their attention. People, across all generations, instinctively respect those who possess their own vibrant purpose, their own compelling interests, their own rich sense of fulfillment. And if your children sense that you rely solely on them for entertainment, for validation, or for the very meaning of your days, they might begin to feel a quiet suffocation. Or, in a more painful turn, they might start to see you as someone who, sadly, has no life of their own. I knew a woman named Evelyn, a kind widow in her late 70s. After her beloved husband passed, she poured every ounce of her love and energy into her children's lives. She checked in constantly, offered advice they hadn't asked for, and subtly expected them to fill the quiet void her husband had left. But instead of drawing them closer, this intense focus, ironically, seemed to create a gentle distance. Their visits became fewer, their calls grew shorter, and Evelyn found herself feeling more profoundly alone than ever before. Then, with quiet courage, she made a life-altering choice. She joined a vibrant book club where new ideas blossomed. She began to travel with friends, exploring places she'd always dreamed of. She volunteered her time at a local community center, finding new purpose in helping others. She gently, intentionally, stopped making her children the singular center of her world, and something truly incredible began to unfold. Her children started reaching out more often, genuinely curious about her new adventures. They admired her newfound independence, her radiant zest for life. They respected her, not out of obligation, but out of genuine admiration. If your children seem to lack the respect you deserve, gently ask yourself, do they see me as someone with a full, meaningful, and vibrant life? Or do they perceive me as someone quietly waiting for their attention, for their call? Because when you truly show them that you are living, not merely existing, they will begin to see you in a completely different, deeply respectful light. Final thoughts? Respect, in the tender dance of family, is not something you can demand from your beloved children. It is, profoundly, something you inspire through the grace with which you carry yourself, through the wisdom with which you set your boundaries, and through the quiet courage with which you live your own vibrant life. If your children have subtly begun to treat you with less care, less consideration, or less reverence, resist the natural urge to spend your precious energy on anger or resentment. Instead, choose to shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval, because the less you appear to need it, the more freely they will offer it. Lead by example, because your inherent dignity speaks a language far louder and more profound than any words you could utter. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because the more self-sufficient and whole you are within yourself, the more they will truly respect your presence. Set firm yet loving boundaries, because people, especially family, will only treat you with the level of respect you quietly, yet unequivocally, require. Stop giving without appreciation, because when generosity is simply taken for granted, its precious value diminishes. And most importantly, build a rich, fulfilling life outside of them, because people, by their very nature, respect those who cultivate their own purpose, their own joy, and their own vibrant sense of fulfillment. If you gently, consistently, and lovingly embrace these profound shifts, something truly incredible will begin to happen. Your children will start to see you through a different lens, not as someone patiently waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by authentically being who they are. And in time, that deep, heartfelt respect will beautifully return to you. Not because you demanded it, but because with quiet strength and unwavering self-worth, you truly earned it. Thank you for joining us today in this heartfelt conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Please share one thing you learned, or one insight that resonated deeply within you today, and how you might gently apply it to your own life's beautiful tapestry. Your thoughts are incredibly important to us, so please don't hesitate to share them in the comments below. Reading your messages fills us with immense motivation and encouragement to continue sharing content that matters. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a quiet like, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who might benefit from this message. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.